All right. Welcome back to All Cars Y'all. It's time for another Motorweek Retro Review reaction. This week I have chosen the 2009 Chevy Silverado Hybrid. And I've done this for a very, very specific reason. I don't do a lot of these truck reaction videos. Surely, I've done a few. I've done a compact truck comparo, and then not too long ago I did the S10 3-door. But I've made the conscious decision to stay away from trucks, primarily because as much as I talk about them on the channel, comparisons of trucks I think break down pretty quickly with all the variations in engines and transmissions and being set up for towing and everything else. I think comparisons of one lose their meaning very quickly if you're looking at a different one. But this one caught my eye because it's the hybrid. Now, I just finished not very long ago my Chevy truck history, the history of the 1500 series trucks, and the hybrid came up twice in there. And honestly, I'd forgotten about it. And I think I'm going to have more to say about it towards the end, because it's a technology that GM was almost ahead of their time, and then just it was wrong-headed and kind of they gave up. And it's coming back. So let's get into it and see what they said, because I'm super curious. So as always, sit back in your comfy chair, grab your beverage of choice. We've got some leftover coffee here today. And let's watch this relatively short one.
Motorweek is made possible by Cars.com.
General Motors' approach to hybrids has centered on boosting the economy of its least efficient vehicles, namely big trucks. We've already put their full-size hybrid SUVs through the mill with good results. Well, this week we turn our attention to their even more popular full-size pickups. So let's see if GM's greener technology has a genuine work ethic.
So I have not watched the one where they did the full-size SUVs. I think that it's Doug DeMuro did one, and that was interesting. Not terribly impressive, but interesting. And I'm really curious about the technology here. I hope they're going to go into some of how GM's hybrid approach on these large, heavy trucks really worked. But let's talk about it as a truck itself. This is another GM product, let's put it this way. Just like when I did the S10, that when it was new, I didn't like it. And in fact, I still don't love it. If you compare it with previous generations, the more thinner headlights and things like that, this was a really stark jump to me with the big square headlight areas. I didn't love it, and it still has these trapezoidal wheel wells. But I think it aged really, really well. When it was new, I thought the Ford looked a lot better. But looking back, I think this is a pretty sharp-looking truck. Didn't feel that way when it was new, if I'm being completely transparent and honest. But now, yeah, I think almost everything about how this truck looks works. Now, my understanding from Chevy truck aficionados is that the previous generation was possibly one of the best trucks ever built. This one, not so much. But feel free to comment below if you agree with that assessment.
More than ever, full-size truck buyers are demanding greater fuel efficiency without giving up capabilities. The Chevrolet Silverado Hybrid and its GMC kin, the Sierra Hybrid, have been engineered to do just that. These are the first strong hybrid pickups to hit the market. They utilize GM's now famed two-mode hybrid transmission with the same powertrain found in Tahoe, Yukon, and Cadillac Escalade hybrid SUVs. That includes GM's Vortec 6-liter V8. Output is 332 horsepower and 367 pound-feet of torque. To reduce fuel use further, active fuel management shuts down 4 cylinders for cruise and light loads. Beyond the V8, the two-mode transmission employs a pair of AC synchronous 60-watt electric motors. Two-mode means these motors can provide continuous variable assistance at both low and high speeds. The EVT runs in continuous mode under lighter loads, but can activate its 4 fixed gear ratios for higher loads. And as with other strong or full hybrid vehicles, the Silverado and Sierra can move with electric-only propulsion up to 30 miles per hour. The two-mode system...
Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to create a hybrid, right? And this one is all working at the transmission level, it sounds like. I'm not an expert on this, and I'm not pretending to be. That's my first explanation of really how it works. And the motors can add to the transmission output. So if you're not running on the large gas engine, it can actually use just the electric, sending it through the transmission itself instead of a separate electric motor or the engine powering the battery directly, that kind of thing. Interesting. To me, the whole technology seems wrong-headed at the beginning. They're trying to use it as you can run off electric for a little while, but we still have to give you the big engine for towing and for hauling and things like that. But you're also, because you're using a big engine and have a short range, you're not getting a great increase in fuel mileage. I don't expect. I don't know. It feels like a half-hearted attempt, but if I remember correctly, this is the second half-hearted attempt that they tried. But it also sounds a little bit like some of the hybrids we've been hearing about. It's just not like what Ram is doing now with the Ram Charger. I don't know. Was GM way ahead of their time, or were they, just spitting in the wind?
System stores its energy in a 300-volt nickel metal hydride battery pack tucked neatly away under the rear seat. And for even further energy conservation, regenerative brakes recharge the batteries with each stopping event. All of this fuel-saving technology results in government fuel economy ratings of 21 city, 22 highway for two-wheel drive, and 20 city, 20 highway for four-wheel drive, both on regular grade gas. That's a 40% gain in city economy and a 25% boost overall, which also means an interstate cruising range of nearly 500 miles.
Okay, now that's the context I was hoping they would give there. 40% boost, 25% on the highway. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's the numbers are not amazing, right? It gets 22 miles per gallon. You're like, big deal, right? But no, that's not bad. I'm torn on this one so far.
And when it comes to daily hauling, the Silverado and Sierra hybrids are indeed no-compromise vehicles. Maximum tow rating is 6,100 pounds for two-wheel drive. Cargo box payload tops 2,600 pounds. On the roads around San Antonio, Texas, we got a solid feel for how these hybrid pickups drive. The front coil spring and rear leaf spring Z85 suspension has been retuned, with a passenger side hydraulic body mount added to enhance ride quality. The variable effort electric steering was numb, but on par with most big pickups. As far as hybrid operation goes, the Silverado and Sierra offer a smooth and seamless transition between gas and electric modes, and ample power is available at a moment's notice.
Okay, and that's important too, and that's very interesting. I'm glad they touched a short video, but I'm glad they're touching on all this, because you did hear earlier, maybe early 2000s, I guess, about hybrids of you'd feel that shudder, right, when it's switched between modes or the engine. The fact that GM got it right, where they said it's seamless, kind of impressive. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop here.
Aside from special hybrid badging and a slightly lower front fascia for improved aerodynamics, they share the same broad-shouldered design as non-hybrid GMT 900s. Special 18-inch quiet-tuned low-rolling resistance tires contribute to the more efficient performance. Available only as a crew cab model, the Silverado and Sierra hybrids have a 69.3-inch long cargo box with either a hard or soft tonneau cover. Inside, you'll find the same clean and spacious cabin as the standard Silverado and Sierra, and they come in only two trims, Work-Minded Value and Plusher Premium. Both include a cluster with a new gauge that lets you know when you're driving at peak efficiency. The Driver Information Center provides other vitals such as instantaneous MPG, and the Speedo has an indicator for the truck's auto-stop capabilities. Premium trim adds a nav screen that also displays hybrid power flow through color animation. Premium also means leather front bucket seats instead of the Value's cloth bench, plus adjustable pedals and rear park assist. All models have dual automatic climate, cruise control, OnStar, and a CD satellite stereo, as well as a huge center console for storage. And a spacious 3-person rear bench seat with a 40-20-40 split and fold-down center armrest also with storage. Safety comes from standard front and side curtain airbags.
I'm going to say that is all pretty impressive. I tend to be very critical of the quality of GM interiors, and rightfully so, in spite of what some of you say. But that's all pretty impressive. I like the gauge. I like the little information cluster. Airbags are great. Space is great. Big armrest. I'm not sure that I don't like Ram interiors more, to be fair. And let's face it, that center console there, we've come a long way in what can be done. But that looked on par, certainly with what the Prius was offering about the same time in terms of showing what's working or what's not. That's the coolest part about hybrids to me, is leaving that up to see what's going on. But overall, the equipment level in this looks fantastic. Dual zone climate control, the back seat is spacious. There's really nothing about this interior that I have negative to say, unless I really start getting into the nitpicking. Like, they could have made the console bigger, and it looks like moved the cup holders forward, made them a little bigger as well. It kind of made things work a little bit of wasted space is what I'm thinking here. But really impressive. Honestly, I have nothing of substance to criticize that interior for. I'm pretty impressed.
Now, base pricing for the Silverado Hybrid Value model is steep at $38,995. That number shoots up to $45,130 for the highly equipped premium trim. Sierra prices are slightly higher, and both charge $3,150 for four-wheel drive. The only cost relief comes from a $2,200 hybrid federal tax credit. So the 2009 Chevrolet Silverado Hybrid and GMC Sierra Hybrid preserve the full-size pickup work ethic while rewarding owners with a meaningful jump in fuel economy. Hopefully their prices will come down, as they are the wave of the future. A couple of green ranch hands that deliver on all fronts.
Motorweek is made possible by...
I think they kind of missed the boat there, saying that it is the wave of the future. And that was the other shoe dropping, and I kind of expected it. These things were expensive. I have very, very mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, as we can look back now, 15 years later, and see how hybrid technology has developed, and how it's changed and how it's coming back, right? And certainly like that Ram Charger and the variations of hybridization that are out there, this feels a little bit like a dead end. And I'm not quite sure I understand what GM was going for. I mean, yeah, gas mileage is nice, but was the towing number, was the payload number, were those absolutely on par with a similar truck, or did this actually reduce space because you had that hybridization, that hybrid transmission in there? You know, how much more? I wish they'd said how much more it was contemporarily to a similarly equipped non-hybrid. It obviously wasn't worth it for people. They didn't sell a ton of these, and it didn't catch on. It ended up just kind of fading away. And I expected this to be a little bit of Motorweek, you know, putting lipstick on a pig, trying to make it sound better than it really was. But that ended up being very, very positive, and like something I would absolutely love driving. Get the slightly better gas mileage, but you have to pay for it. And that's a financial decision. If it's X number of dollars more, but I'm getting, you know, 4 more miles per gallon. Is it actually worth it? And I think by and large, the answer was no for people who bought trucks. That sure, better gas mileage would be nice, but not for the price. Other than that, from this review, I don't really sense any limitations of it, except maybe at the extreme ends, right? You wanted truly an off-road vehicle, you wanted that kind of package, or you needed better and more towing, whatever it happened to be. But for how most people buy trucks, the vast number of keyboard warriors who buy trucks and drive them to sit them in a parking deck all day long, this would have been awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I'm impressed. But again, my overall opinion here is it feels like a dead end that GM invested a bunch of resources in and then just had to give up on it. And now we get to sit here and see somebody like Ram come out with where it probably should have evolved to begin with. Let me know what you think below, guys. I like the truck. Thought I would hate the hybrid, and I don't. I just wonder how much it really compromised everything else about the truck. Interesting video. Thanks for being here, guys.